Hey, foodie friends, and welcome to Chef's Recipe Spotlight with Jessica Ann, where we talk about food because food is lovely and delicious. Today, we are excited to share a hot recipe with a hot take. And I'm telling you that for two reasons. It is Nashville Hot Sauce, and it is quite controversial on my site, and I am perfectly okay with that. So let's talk about why. First of all, I do not live in Nashville. I'm not from Nashville, but I do like to visit Nashville. Hubby and I go about twice a year. We love food, we love the drinking, we love the dancing. It's the music, it's all great, it's fun. Always a good time down in Nashville. And one of the things we have to get is Nashville hot chicken. Sometimes it's a sandwich, sometimes it's chicken fingers. I've had some awesome nachos over at Lucky Bastards. Always really good there. But they use a hot sauce, and Nashville hot sauce isn't a smooth or creamy sauce like a buffalo sauce from Anchor Bar. In fact, it's almost a little gritty. It's got a lot of granular little pieces in it that come from the spices that are used in it. And it's used minimally. It's not a huge saucy lick your fingers kind of a sauce, right? It gets tossed, it gets drained, and then it gets thrown on whatever it's getting thrown on, but it is hot. Okay. So my recipe is not a copycat recipe. It is not meant to be Hattie B's, and it is not meant to be Prince's. It's not meant to be anybody's but my own. I've tasted them and I decided to come up with something that I liked better. And the biggest better, I'm using my air quotes there, is that I'm using butter. And I'm not just using regular butter, I'm using clarified butter. So most folks or some folks are going to be like, well, why is that so controversial? Well, most of the hot chicken down there, most of the hot chicken sauces actually have a vegetable oil base or a margarine base. And those two things are what make them not solidify. So my sauce, when it is not melted, will solidify because it is made out of butter, and butter gets hard again. It won't get totally hard because I do add honey in there to balance it out and help it from getting completely chunky, but it does solidify. So my recipe, I like using butter instead of thinking that I'm drenching my fried chicken in just more oil. It makes me feel better about myself and my life for the day. We'll go out on a limb and call it a whole eating plan. I know you're giggling at me. I just like to make myself feel better about things sometimes. So we've got a half a cup of unsalted butter. I do use unsalted so I can add salt in and be able to control it myself. I would prefer to use a clarified butter. If you don't want to clarify it yourself, grab a jar of ghee. It's usually in the Indian or the health food section at the grocery store, but really you can use regular butter too. It just has those milk solids in it. Not a big deal. Okay, 3 tablespoons of cayenne pepper. This is where the heat comes from. If you want hot, go all 3 tablespoons. If you want to lay back a little bit, go down to one. You can always add more, but it's going to be hard to take away the heat after you've added it in. 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. The sugar obviously helps balance out all that heat, but the brown part of it makes it have a little bit of a molasses undertone. Light sugar is the traditional, but if you really love molasses, go for a dark brown sugar. Okay, 2 teaspoons of coarse kosher salt. Say that 5 times fast. Okay, brings out all the natural flavors and also helps balance it. 2 teaspoons of ground black pepper. Make sure you're freshly grinding that. Anything that comes pre-ground basically is just sawdust. 2 teaspoons of garlic powder. 1 teaspoon of smoked paprika. So paprika, people think it's spicy. It's not. It's actually red bell pepper, dried red bell pepper. Smoked gives it a smoky flavor. And then 1 tablespoon of honey. So the tablespoon of honey is going to be what helps that sauce stay stable and not completely solidify. I like the sweet and spicy. I think it's delicious. Some people think that honey has no place in a Nashville hot chicken sauce. So if you don't like it, just leave it out. Anyway, this makes a pretty hefty batch, probably about 3/4 of a cup. And 3/4 of a cup doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're literally just tossing it and not dipping it and getting all crazy with the sauciness, it's enough to coat at least 4 or 5 fried chicken sandwiches. So go ahead and make it ahead of time. If you do make it ahead of time, it will solidify, just like we've said. So make sure that you melt it and give it a really good stir to get all of those spices and stuff back together again. Um, You can put it back in a heavy bottom saucepan and heat it over low heat until it combines even more, but they're never going to completely dissolve, and that's okay. It's not meant to be that way. So I hope you do give it a try. I hope you do come back and tell me what you thought about it. Some people love it, some people hate it, and that's okay. Just make sure you don't yuck someone else's yum, okay? So make sure that you subscribe to our newsletter and our recipes and our YouTubes and our podcast to talk about all things food. From my kitchen to yours, keep it spicy.